Hey everyone, in this episode, I want to talk to you about cutting corners when you are getting clean and sober. Cutting corners doesn't do anything for anybody, and it's not a good thing to do. You have to experience the whole process, let it take time, and ultimately, you will grow. No sense in rushing it. Enjoy the show. Here we are, Real Recovery Talk. I am your host, Tom Conrad. In today's episode, it is just me. Benjamin B is again off doing his thing, but that is okay. I got it under control. First things first, thank you for tuning in on YouTube, and also thank you for listening on the podcast app, whichever podcast app that you so choose. In the end, if you would like to reach out to either myself or Ben, you can reach us, Tom at realrecoverytalk.com and Ben at realrecoverytalk.com. All right. In today's episode, going to be short and sweet, want to discuss with you something that I see rather often. It is people, when they are getting clean and sober, they like to cut corners. Cutting corners is not a good thing to do, and I want to give you some examples in which you could potentially cut corners when getting sober. First thing I do want to say, though, is when you do cut corners, it doesn't allow you to have the full experience of what recovery is supposed to be like. People that cut corners miss a lot of it. And so I'm going to keep it in the recovery sense, but also in the treatment sense as well. The first thing that I want to discuss, and this is just a very broad but to the point topic, is when we cut corners, generally one of the first things that people do is they cut corners on the amount of accountability they have within their sobriety. Now, what does that look like? A lot of times people, when they get sober, they try and do it themselves. That is a form of cutting corners because we're supposed to surround ourselves with accountability, in particular, good accountability, people that are sober, that have done the deal, and they know what they're doing. And a lot of times people get that within meetings, whatever meetings you so choose. I happen to choose 12-step programs. I'm in Alcoholics Anonymous. It could be Narcotics Anonymous for you. It could be Celebrate Recovery. It could be Smart Recovery, whatever it is that you choose. You have to make sure that you stay accountable to those people. And ways that I see people cutting corners on this, especially in treatment. If you're in a lower level of care, meaning it's not, let's just say you have 60 days clean, you're probably in what's called an intensive outpatient level of care, and that is going to mean you're probably working, you're doing some groups, you have your individual session. It's more of a transitional level of care. You've gone through detox, you've gone through residential, you've gone through the inpatient process. Now you're an IOP. It's more rubber meet the road type level of care. Within that, you're expected to go to meetings. Now, where people tend to cut corners, and this is true, I see it all the time. If, say, I say, hey, Frank, I need you to go to 5 meetings a week. Frank says, okay, I'll go to 5 meetings a week. Well, he doesn't go to a meeting Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Friday, he goes to 2 meetings. Saturday, he goes to 2 meetings. And Sunday, he goes to 1 meeting. What did he do? He went to the meetings just to say that he went to the meetings. There's not intent behind it. When there's an expectation around meetings, I can make that expectation for you from an authoritative approach. But I don't want to do that. I want you to set the expectation for yourself. Hey, I'm going to go to 5 meetings a week. A lot of times in 12-step programs, you hear the 90 and 90. Me personally, it's not set in stone. It's a good gauge, I suppose. If you have nothing going on in your life and you can make 90 meetings in 90 days, good for you. If you can make 180 meetings in 90 days, good for you. But I don't want somebody doing 90 and 90 because they have to. I would rather have somebody do 60 and 90 because they want to. You see, and that's where people tend to cut corners. People that backload these meetings, or I'm going to do the 90 and 90 because you told me to, even though I really don't want to. It's cutting corners. Or, I'm going to go to 5 meetings a week, but I'm going to do all those 5 meetings within 2 or 3 days. It's cutting corners. You're doing it because it's something that you have to do. And it's unfortunate because you miss out on a big part of the experience of meetings. Listen, my personal opinion of meetings is, at first, it's a necessity. Most people that stumble into some sort of AA or NA or some sort of support program, they generally don't go in there because they woke up one morning, hey, I'd love to go to an AA meeting today. Most people go in apprehensive. Most people go in with their guard up. Most people go in not willing to talk, which is okay. And that can carry on for a period of time. But what we want is that switch to flip to where, hey, I enjoy these meetings. I see the benefit that I have when I attend these meetings. The relationships that I've built within these meetings are very important. And I'm now buying into the sobriety process. But that can only be done by going to meetings, and in my opinion, going to a bunch of different meetings. Wherever you are, find a handful of meetings that you like, go to those for a period of time, and then switch it up. Go to some more meetings. Find a home group. Find maybe one meeting that you really enjoy. Go to that one religiously every week. But go to different ones. Meet different people. That, I think, is one of the most important things about sobriety. And if you've been listening to this podcast for any length of time, you know me. The biggest thing for me is the community that you have, the community that you surround yourself with. So that's point number 1. If you need to, not if you need, but when you go to meetings, go to the meetings intently. Go with the right mindset. The second thing that I see people take shortcuts on whenever they're building their community or they are having to get a sponsor. You see, most people, especially with what I do, I work in treatment. Obviously, you know this by now, Rock Recovery Center. We have a lot of men and women here, and we require them to get a sponsor. But it is rather often that we see if Joey gets this sponsor, then you see Nick have that sponsor, Frank have that sponsor, Joe or Jesse or whatever. You'll see 3 or 4 guys all have the same sponsor. To me, that is cutting corners. The whole idea behind getting a sponsor is obviously to take you through the steps and to walk you through that process. But I think there's more to it than that. I think it's more about getting outside of yourself, going and asking another person, hey, are you willing to walk alongside me and help me through this process? There's a relationship building aspect to it. And when I see 3 or 4 guys all have the same sponsor, I'm led to believe it's the lowest hanging fruit. Hey, Joe has this sponsor. Joe says this is a great guy. I'm going to go ahead and get that guy too. There's no effort behind it. You wait for Joe's sponsor to show up one day and you just walk up to him, hey, can you be my sponsor? I suppose it's better than nothing. But in the end, there was no real effort behind it. Joe was the one that got the sponsor to begin with. Joe went out and met that person. Joe liked what he had to say. Joe bought into what he was selling. Joe asked him to sponsor him. Through conversation, you find out that Joe's sponsor is a nice guy and potentially, something that it might interest you, and now you go get Joe's sponsor. And then you tell your friend about Joe's sponsor and how Joe's sponsor is so nice, and then your friend all of a sudden wants Joe's sponsor. I see this a lot, too, in the employment aspect of it. If somebody gets a job at a restaurant or something or a grocery store, next thing you know, 7, 8, 10 people all have the same jobs. Again, it's not bad, but it could potentially be cutting corners. It takes the effort out of it. And I think there's something to be said there. You have to put some effort towards what you're doing. And if we don't put effort towards it and everybody just kind of hands it to us, then when we do get put into a situation where we actually have to force some effort, it's going to be pretty tough. The third thing that I see people do, and they just, are cutting corners, is they try and rush the whole entire process as a whole. I hear people all the time, I'm going to do treatment for 30 days and then I'm going to go back home and everything's just going to be fine. And my response always is, well, if you think that you're going to be able to just get this licked after 30 days, you got another thing coming. I think that's a song. You got another thing coming. Duh, duh. And it's true. I don't think that, listen, you have 10, 12, 15 years worth of drinking and drugging, and you think that you're just going to waltz into treatment and do 30 days and everything's going to be fine. You're going to be sadly mistaken. Now, I have seen, and just a disclaimer, I have seen people do 30 days of treatment and return back home and remain sober, and good for you. Those people are extremely motivated. They are generally older. It's good. If you can do that, great. But the vast majority of people that I have worked with are young adults, male and female, and 99% of the time, if they try and rush the process and they cut corners and they cut the treatment process short, they're not going to be successful. Average length of stay with us is 90 to 120 days. That's just the way that it is. Some people are fortunate enough to be able to stay that long. Others are not. Everybody's situation is different and unique, but we're all cut from the same cloth. We're all addicts. We're all alcoholics, and we all need to take some time to recover and limit any of the outside noise and influence that's going to hinder us from being able to do so. I tell that to everybody. This time that you are getting clean and sober needs to be the most selfish time of your life. You cannot let anybody, anything influence your decision-making process right now, unless it is the decision-making process that's going to support you in your sobriety. Because somebody will say, well, Tom, you said that you can't let anybody influence your decision, and I've decided that I want to go home and I need to get back to work and I need to make money, yada, yada, yada. Then you need to let people influence your decision. What I'm talking about is if you've decided I'm going to take this period of time and focus just on myself, you need to take this amount of time and focus just on yourself. And you do not let anybody or anything influence that. And that's across the board. Married people, single people, business owners, so on and so forth. Because if you cannot focus on yourself for a period of time, you're not going to be successful. And that's why I tell people, don't let other people or other things or careers or whatever influence your decision. This is the most selfish time of your life, and you need to stick by that. And that's a lot of times how people cut corners. They cut the treatment process too short. They say, okay, I'll do AA for 30 days or 60 days, and after that, I'm done. Which sometimes I'm not against that, because I know that if you're willing to devote 60 days to go into treatment or go into AA, within that 60 days, so as long as you're doing everything that you're supposed to be doing, you're going to understand what sobriety is all about, and you're going to buy into the process, and you're going to continue to go down that path. I told myself I'll go to treatment for 45 days. That was September 16th of 2010, and I'm still sober today. I had the idea, 45 days. I'll go for 45 days, and that's it. And I'm still sober today. So I hope that helps you. I hope that you got something out of that. If you know somebody that can benefit from this, if you have a family member or a loved one, or maybe even yourself, and this resonates with you or you think it would resonate with them, feel free to share it with them. And in the end, if you want to reach out to either myself, Tom at realrecoverytalk.com, Ben at realrecoverytalk.com. And remember, our ultimate mission is to help you turn your mess into your message. That is it. We will see y'all later.